Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is one that has been in the news very recently. Thankfully, after 10 long years, well probably over that now, the Long Island serial killer has supposedly, or at least thought to be, caught. Yeah. This case, people have been fascinated with it for so long, and no wonder, because just so tragic, everything that happened in it. Sorry, I've just got an itchy nose. But yeah, it's also known as the LISK case. Anyway, let's jump into everything and go through everything we know and everything that's coming out so far. So I want to start, well, the time frame is a bit strange. The entire case of this began when 23-year-old Shannon Gilbert went missing. She was a sex worker. She went missing in 2010. She was heading from her home in New Jersey with her typical driver, went to a home and then mysteriously vanished. And of course, her family were so worried about her. Everyone was really worried about her. And so this is where it began, because the search for Shannon sparked everything to do with LISK. And the funny thing is about this case is that sadly Shannon would be found. Her remains would be found. But it's not even thought to be related to LISK. Her death was ruled accidental. We'll get more into that in a little bit. Although people do think that it might not have been accidental. But like I said, we'll get more into that. So anyway, they're looking for the remains of Shannon, okay? And there's this off-duty police officer. I believe he was doing a training exercise with his scent dog Blue. And he's going across like Long Island. And Blue marks the spot where he has found some human remains. So, of course, immediately, with everything that's going on with Shannon, the officer believes that he has found Shannon. But that wasn't the case. He had not found Shannon's remains. It was instead the remains of a Melissa Bartholomew. And that would spark this entire thing, because she was also a sex worker. But in total, they would go on to then find another 3 bodies in about the same area. And fully across that whole stretch of sort of land, the further they went, they would find 11 bodies in total. But not all of them are thought to be basically killed by the Long Island serial killer. It's only thought that 4 of them, because I guess the way that they were done, you know, that's how they find out serial killers, is that they have the same MO, they have the same matching, like, how they do things. And so 4 of them girls that were found pretty much straight away were thought to be the only victims of LISK, basically because of how everything tied in and how everything matched. So initially, they find out the identity of a woman called Megan Waterman. That was in June of 2010, and the other 3 at the time they didn't know, despite finding, like I've said, they found the body first of Melissa, but they didn't know who she was yet. So Megan was the first one to be identified. They then identified Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Bartholomew, and Amber Lynn Costello. And they were known as the Gilgo Beach 4. So that's also how this case is often referred to as well. And that is when they realised that they had a serial killer on their hands, because everything was done in the same manner. The girls all advertised, we're all sex workers, they all advertised their services on Craigslist, and we're all independent, you know, working off of themselves. And yeah, that's when it all came out. Over this period of time, like I said, they ended up finding 11 more sets of skeletal remains. Most of them were women. A lot of them were unidentified and still remain unidentified to this day. There was also a man found, an Asian man. I believe that I read that he liked to dress up as a woman, but I might be wrong on that, so my sincerest apologies if I am. But I think that I did read that. I don't believe they know his identity yet. They also found the remains of a toddler. I think it was a female toddler. They eventually did find the identity of the toddler's mother. So she was also there, sadly. So yeah, they've just found all of these remains on Long Island. And they're just like, what the heck is going on, basically? Let me just go over a bit of a timeline of when some of the bodies were found. So, 20th of April, 1996. Yes, we are going back that far. They actually found some dismembered legs of a woman just off the shore of Fire Island. This Jane Doe was This victim was referred to as Fire Island Jane Doe. And then when they found these remains in like 2010, 2011, they ended up coming across her skull. And they would later be linked by DNA, obviously. But she was known as Fire Island Jane Doe number 7, because they couldn't identify her. On the 20th of June in 97, the dismembered torso was found. She was given the nickname of Peaches, and they believe that she actually died 3 days before she was found. Then in 2011, they discovered more human remains of her, Jane Doe 3, and they were linked together that Peaches and Jane Doe 3 were the same person. And like I said about the baby that was found, which was referred to as Baby Doe, Peaches was actually the mother of Baby Doe. In November 2000, a torso was found by hikers on Long Island, and then later more remains of this Manorville Jane Doe, as she was known as, was found and linked by DNA. That was in 2011. I know that I'm skipping forward here a bit, but this case is just very up and down and all over the place. So I'm just going to say right now is that they did manage to identify Manorville Jane Doe in 2020, and it came out that her name was Valerie Mack. She was born in 1976 and was just 24 when I'm guessing that all these people were murdered when she was murdered. And this theme continues. There were remains found in 2003, identified as Jessica Taylor. Then they found more of her remains in 2011. Honestly, this is just nuts. Then we jump up to 2007 on the 9th of July, and this is actually when we see a familiar name, because Maureen Brainard Barnes, that's actually when she went missing. She was last seen in her room at the Super 8 Hotel in Midtown Manhattan. She left her home in Norwich to go and meet a client through Craigslist, and then she would then be reported on the 14th of July in 2007. And of course, her remains were then found in 2010 at the start of this on Gilgo Beach, having been strangled. In 2009, the 12th of July, Melissa Bartholomew went missing. She was last seen outside of her apartment in the Bronx. She had arranged for a $1,000 date with a client the next night somewhere on Long Island, and then sadly she vanished. Now after this, her sister, all of these victims' family were out looking for them. The friends, they wasn't the kind of people who had gotten. A lot of sort of sex workers maybe lose touch with a family or whatever, you know what I mean? Whereas this wasn't the case. So everyone was out looking for these people, their family, and trying to get the police on side and stuff, which is kind of hard to do, sadly, with sex workers, because a lot of the time they just get brushed under the rug, which they should not do, obviously, at all. But it's just a sad fact of life, which shouldn't be a fact of life, but it is. Anyway, her sister was 15 years old at the time, or 16, I believe, anyway. She would get several phone calls off of her sister's phone, off of the killer. So the person who had killed her sister was taunting her and telling her all the details of what he'd done to her sister, which is just absolutely horrific. And for a poor 15-year-old girl to have to listen to that about her own family member, her own sister, her own blood, is just so heartbreaking. And then, of course, Melissa's body was found in 2010. And once more, she had been strangled too. On the 1st of May 2010 is when Shannon Gilbert actually went missing. She was last seen leaving a client's house on Oak Beach. Now, she did actually ring 911. She claimed that people were trying to kill her. She basically ran out of the house and went banging on people's doors, on neighbors' doors, just screaming for help. She was terrified, right? So Then after that, she vanishes. And obviously her family was out searching for her, and this sparked everything. It would be 19 months before they actually found Shannon's body. And they found her on Oak Beach marshland, which wasn't super far from where all the other bodies were found. It was about a quarter mile from where she was last seen, and police did actually suspect that because of, you know, the phone calls, and they thought that she was kind of terrified, and maybe, I don't know whether they thought she was on drugs or something like that, or had a mental break, and basically was terrified for her life when there was nobody actually threatening her. She ran out into the marsh, scared to death, and died because of the elements. That is what was said about Shannon. However, her family didn't accept that because they truly thought that she had been murdered, obviously with all of everything else that was going on too. So they did get a private investigator involved, and this private investigator, I think they did another autopsy, and there was some damage to something in the neck, like a bone or something along the lines. I'm not entirely sure, you know, but yeah, there was some sort of little bit of damage that could indicate that she was strangled. So I believe there's been like a bit of a fight to try and, obviously, if she was murdered, they want justice for that, and they want to find out who did it. So I'm not sure how far that has gotten along, because I believe it's still thought that she wasn't a victim of LISK or a victim of murder at all, and that it was just a sad accidental death kind of thing. On the 6th of June in 2010, is when Megan Waterman was last seen. She was seen nearby a convenience store and had been staying in a Holiday Inn Express. She was caught on security cameras walking out of the hotel at 1:30 a.m. And then sadly in 2010 her remains would be discovered as one of the Gilgo 4. Then on the 2nd of September 2010 is when Amber Lynn Costello, who's 27, went missing. Last seen by her roommate leaving the house. She was going to meet a client. The client had apparently called 3 or 4 times and offered her quite a substantial amount of money for her services. And then she vanished, and of course in 2010 her remains were found on the beach as one of the 4 too. And that kind of brings us more up to where I was before starting the timeline. Obviously they uncovered all the rest of the remains, baby doll, all of, you know, everything else, and they did the links. They found the other remains as part of the bodies that were found years ago. You know, it's just, I can't even imagine how horrific it would have all been, especially for the families and whatnot. So anyway, on the bodies, we're looking, even though I've gone into all of them, the Long Island serial killer is the Gilgo 4, okay? So we're looking at those 4 specifically. I just wanted to touch on all the others because I guess probably not a lot of people really do that. And, you know, they matter as well. All of these people matter. Okay, maybe the Long Island serial killer didn't murder them, but someone did. And so they do matter. So rather than doing like a separate video, I just thought I'd include them all because they're all kind of linked in that sense when they were all found in the same stretch, but not linked in the thought that this man or whoever did this killed them all, basically. So yeah, anyway, they found these 4 bodies and they were all disposed of in the same way. They were kind of tied at the head, the midsection, and the feet. They had no clothes. They were all strangled, and they were found in a burlap sack. In like camouflage burlap. Now, it was thought that the killer used this to promote, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Why doesn't my brain work? Decomposition. And obviously these bodies were all in different states of decomposition, so they figured that they weren't all murdered at the same time. And like I've already told you, the dates they went missing, some was like 3 years before that. They knew that they had a serial killer on their hands. They did find some evidence on the bodies. They actually found some hairs. They found female hairs on, I think, 3 of the bodies, and a male hair on 1 of the body as well. But at the time, they were really degraded because of, you know, they'd been out in the elements for a long time. They were in this burlap material, and so they couldn't do the DNA testing that they would have hoped for because it was too degraded and technology wasn't up to date by then. So they obviously looked into these cases, but sadly, like I said, it was really thought that the police didn't do enough not saying that because they were sex workers, but kind of saying that, you know, sex workers get a bad rap because people, I don't know, the police don't seem to look into their cases very well, which is heartbreaking. So yeah, these cases would be unsolved for at least a decade. Then I believe go ahead and make a task force, because in 2020, that's exactly what they did. They made a task force with the sole intention of finding who the Long Island killer was. And guess what? 6 weeks later, they had a name. And that name was Rex Heuermann. Now, when they actually started looking into Rex, boy, did they find some stuff. The police, when they described him in their, like, what's it called, interview thing that they did, press release, that's it, I think. I can't do words today, I'm sorry. They literally pretty much described him as a demon and a vile human. And he is. He definitely is a very vile human. What they found on Rex was just so disturbing. And I will tell you how they got onto Rex. Basically, they did finally test the DNA. This was 2022. I'm not sure if I mentioned that's when the task force was created, 2022. Technology had improved since then, although, in my opinion, they could have done this sooner. They just didn't. Because technology's been, you know, at this stage for a little bit now. So I believe they could have done it sooner. I might be wrong with that. That's just my opinion. But yeah, anyway, they did the DNA testing, right? And they managed to match it to, well, Rex Heuermann's wife, Ada. So these women hairs that were found on the bodies of these victims all them years ago were his wife's hairs. Now, I'm not saying that they feel like she was involved whatsoever, because they do not. They actually looked into her travel records, and she was not even in the country when at least 3 of these women were murdered. So it's thought that these hairs, that Rex was the killer, obviously, and that these hairs were passed on somehow, whether it's through his clothing, they were in the car that he bundled them in, I don't know, they were on the duct tape that he used. So the original woman was actually bound by rope, but then after that duct tape was used. So, or whether any of these women actually, he took them back to his house. You know what I mean? It could have been any way that these hairs got onto him. But when they finally got Rex's DNA, which was basically throwaway DNA, that's how they got his wife's DNA too. They took like 13 cans out of the bin outside of the house, basically. Managed to get her DNA, and it was a match. They also got Rex's by some pizza that he had. Like the crust of a pizza that he'd thrown away. And it was like a 99.6% match to say that the male DNA found on the body was Rex's. That's not the only evidence that they have, as damning as that is, you know, because that's actual physical evidence that they have on him. They have his and his wife's hairs on the bodies of murder victims from 10 years ago. It's pretty damning evidence straight away. But that's not all they had. They looked into the cell records too. And obviously, like I said, the killer used Melissa's phone to ring back. They tied it in through cell records that he had. I mean, he used burner phones, he used burner emails, you know, he used all sorts because he was searching up some disgusting stuff and he wanted to hide that all away and not get caught. So he used all of that. One of those burner phones on his arrest was actually linked, and one of those burner emails was linked. No, one of those burner phones was found on him when he was arrested, and one of the emails linked to what they were looking into was also logged in on that phone, so they knew it was him. He had somebody who'd actually been a witness as well described pretty much Rex, you know, big guy, 6 foot something, dark hair, glasses. They also described a car which was an Avalanche, like a big pickup truck car, and when they looked into that, guess what? Rex had owned one of them all them years ago. So all of these different things. It's not just the physical evidence that they have. You know, they have all these other things tying him in too. Not only that, you look into his search history, guess what he's searching up? Some absolutely vile, disgusting stuff. And I'm not even going to say it on YouTube because they will probably strike me for it. But vile stuff with regards to younger women kind of thing. Very violent stuff. He had all of these burner emails and stuff and all these fake accounts, and he was always on Craigslist. He had everything to look into all this disgusting stuff. Apparently somebody came forward when they were doing a renovation in his kitchen. They said that they saw this locked room and asked him what was in there, and he was kind of like, and then said that it was full of guns. Well, guess what? When they actually recovered all the evidence from his house, and I mean there was a ton of that as well, tons and tons of it, so they've got to be more information to come out because they will find more evidence, I am certain, in that house. He figured he'd got away with it, so who knows, he might have took some trophies. Like I said, the women were never found with their belongings or clothing. Who knows whether they'll find some of that in there, hidden away. They found like 270 guns when he had only the licenses for half of those. Why he needed so many guns, I have no clue. But basically, this man is a disgusting predator, and even if he doesn't get found guilty for killing these women, which I think he's good for it, I think with everything they have, the DNA evidence just speaks wonders, personally. Surely he's going to get done for something because the amount of stuff that they found is just disgustingly vile. And it came as a shock to people as well, actually, because Rex was a family man, you know. He was an architect. He ran his own business. The people who knew him thought he was this nice, quirky guy who just worked really hard and was just the most sort of laid-back person you could ever meet kind of thing. He had a daughter who also worked for him, his wife, of course, and they had a son who had special needs. I believe that he only had the one child with his wife, though, the daughter, and that was his stepson. So on the outside, everyone just thought that he was this normal, respectable guy, and people were quite shocked. But then other people did say that he was a bit strange. And it seems like this is the police's running theory, that obviously when his family was out of town, this is when he went hunting for victims. So who knows whether he did actually take them back to his house or not, because the house would have been empty. So, you know, there would have been all the opportunity to do that. Now, he has pled not guilty to this. He's been charged, well, not charged yet, but he's been arrested with connection to the murder of 3 of the women. Amber, Melissa, and Megan, okay? The 4th one, he is the prime suspect in it. So they do believe that he killed her too. However, I'm guessing that they didn't find the DNA evidence that they found on the other 3. So that's why they're only sort of charging him for this and hoping to find more with regards to the 4th one, and then they could charge him for that too. He's pled not guilty. Yeah, apparently he was crying to his lawyer saying that he didn't do this. Yeah, I don't know. And the lawyer then said that they only have circumstantial evidence, which is a load of absolute bullcrap, because circumstantial evidence, do they know the difference between circumstantial and actual physical? Like, physical evidence is DNA. His hair and his wife's hair, not only just his. How? So what? Okay, if he brushed past all 3 women accidentally and got some of his own hair onto them, oh, maybe that happened. Or maybe he had hired them as like a sex worker and got some of his hair on them. But how on earth did his wife's hair end up on them? Okay, so that's more physical. That's physical evidence to me. And obviously with everything else, I definitely think he's good for it. But obviously innocent until proven guilty. You guys make your own opinions on that. I believe that he probably did do it. We'll wait for the trial to come out, obviously, and see what happens. But yeah, he's pled not guilty to it all. Says he didn't do it. Even if he didn't, and that's a big even if to me, he's still a monster, a predator, just somebody that should not be out free in the world to just search up whatever the hell he wants on the internet and come up with all those vile, disgusting things. Have 300 guns in your house. Why the heck? Not a clue. So yeah, I think he should be in jail either way, but I really do think that he did it. I'd love to know what you guys think. with everything that's going on. And I've also got more information on this case. So this happened about 3 weeks ago now. I'm a bit late to the party, okay? It's still all in the news because I was literally searching up any new information like yesterday. And it said, yesterday at this point is, let me check the date. So we're on the 5th of August right now. Saturday, and Friday I was looking this up, and they said that they were going to do a conference because they had actually gained the identity of another Jane Doe. So they were going to release her identity, which I found very interesting, Obviously, finally another victim has gotten her name back, and that was literally yesterday. So let me reveal to you that it was actually the Fire Island Jane Doe, who I've already talked about. And it's been nearly 3 decades at this point, you know, since when she was first sort of found, some of her was first found, to finally get her name back. Her name is Karen Vergata, and I apologize if I've said that wrong. It's spelled, let me just look over here, Vargata. I haven't actually seen anybody announce it. I've just kind of read it, so I'm not entirely sure on the pronunciation, so I really do apologize. I don't mean to get them wrong, and I don't mean any disrespect by them. I'm not very good with pronunciations of names, sometimes even English names, so I don't have a clue. So yeah, but she was a 34-year-old woman from Manhattan, and she actually went missing on the 14th of February in 1996. So yeah, she finally has her name back after all of this time. Hopefully, we will find more and more information on these unidentified bodies, and hopefully more information on the LISK killer. Obviously, the trial's going to come out. I might do maybe a tiny little update video, maybe like a short, if and when he gets convicted, or if or when he gets convicted, just to sort of update everyone. I don't know, but we'll see. As of yet, he's only just been arrested, and he's innocent until proven guilty, you know? There you go, we'll see where everything goes. But yeah, that is the end of this case. If you've enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for similar content, and that's all I have today on the case of the Long Island serial killer. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye. Oh, one thing I actually forgot to add as well. Let me just say that these women, the Gilgo 4, were working on their own, like I've already mentioned. They didn't have like an escort service or something like that. So they would advertise their services on things like Craigslist and things like that. Now, it is said that people who work in the sex business, who do it on their own, have their own form of protection. Like they pay somebody, or, you know, a friend or something who looks out for them, basically. And on the night that each of these women went missing, they broke their own security protocols. So it is believed that either they knew this person, or maybe they were a recurring sort of client. And if it was Rex, he finally saw his opportunity. His family were out of town. This person knew them well enough to drop their guard, one of the victims, and he took them. So yeah, that's just absolutely heartbreaking, because they trusted him to an extent, it seems like, and he murdered them. It's so awful. But yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.